Hello class, this is Mrs. Barrow, giving you a quick review of Paleolithic man. Some of us just had a couple learning gaps last week or didn't understand certain concepts, so I figured I'd go over the key concepts again with you so you could do better this week when we learn about Neolithic man. Paleolithic man was alive during the Paleolithic era, which is the Old Stone Age. The characteristics that they had is they were nomads and moved from place to place because they were following their food. Because they were hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers eat meat from animals, and then they gather berries and vegetables. So from time to time, the animals would move or migrate from place to place, and we would follow them so that we would still be able to eat meat. And sometimes they ate all the berries or vegetables available in a place and had to move to a place with more fruits and vegetables so that they could continue to survive. You should also know that they did sleep in caves for shelter, and they created cave arts to express themselves. Remember, this is before alphabets and specific writing, so instead they would draw pictures like if they were hunting deer nearby and they wanted to remember this was a good place to find deer in the spring, they'd paint a picture of a bunch of deer on the inside of a nearby cave. And that also lets other cavemen know what kind of food sources are available there. So cave art was really an expression of the things that they wanted to say in lieu of a spoken, well, a universal spoken or a written language. They did have a little bit of spoken language, but not as uniform as we have today. So I want to be clear that Paleolithic man did not farm. Farming did not happen until the Neolithic age with Neolithic man. And you need to remember this because in the future, you're going to have a few assignments that ask for the differences between Paleolithic and Neolithic man. And you need to be able to say that Paleolithic man were nomads that moved from place to place with no settled home. They moved from place to place to follow their food because they were hunter-gatherers and they slept in caves. One other very important feature is that they had stone tools. Now, Neolithic man used stone tools as well, but by the Neolithic age, they also had metal tools. But Paleolithic man had zero metal tools. Everything was made of stone. So it's important, again, to remember those things. Last but not least, culture is important. That began to develop with Paleolithic man. And examples of culture are arts, religion, tool making, types of food, anything that helps define who you are as a group of people and is passed down from generation to generation is really culture. Now, something else important to know about Paleolithic man, they had a lot of adaptations to their environments. And I'm going to give you some examples because adaptations, remember, are different than characteristics. One of the adaptations they had was they used fire as a tool. And this was essential because fire was like definitely one of the most important inventions of the Paleolithic age, arguably, absolutely the most valuable technology that they had because it provided warmth, it provided protection from enemies and animals, it provided light at night, and they were able to cook their food. Now, scroll down a little. Notice it says fire as a tool, because that was the adaptation, taking fire and using it as a tool. And it was in response to the need for warmth, the need for protection, the need for light, and the need for cooked food. Other adaptations, migration. Now, why did they migrate? Due to climate change. It became too hot. Their areas were drying up. The animals were leaving. So what did they do? They followed their food out. They followed their food to a new home with plenty of food, with a cooler climate that they could survive in. Another adaptation is fur clothing. Began during the Ice Age. Now, why was that adaptation needed? Because they needed warmth during the Ice Age to stay alive. So therefore, they used animals' fur for clothing. Another example of a Paleolithic adaptation would be stone tools, but you need to be a little more specific if you're going to call this an adaptation. I mean, you have to say stone tools were a response to hunting bigger animals, They needed stone tools for cutting down trees. They needed stone tools for cutting up fruits. And other various uses. But notice the difference between a characteristic and an adaptation. A characteristic is something that they did or a way of life. An adaptation means that they created something in response to a problem. An adaptation is solving a problem. So just keep this in mind when you're thinking about the Paleolithic era and Paleolithic man. And this week we're going to begin Neolithic man and learn about him. And try to keep the information separate in your brain. It would probably be a good idea to type up some notes in your OneNote online so that you can remember for future class endeavors. If that's not a hint, I don't know what is. And I hope that you guys have a great day.